Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Robin, and we're looking forward to having this conversation today. Today, we are going to be having a roundtable discussion on business best practices. I am excited both to share some of the things I've learned in my career and listen to what all of you have to share. First, some introductions. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Robin. I'm TPABT board member and associate director of tutor training. I've also written a few books on test prep, including 28 ACT science lessons, ACT science for tutors, and ACT English for tutors, the last two of which can be found on the TPABT website. When I'm not doing test prep, I am also a spouse, parent, amateur actress, and Pokemon live streamer.
And I'm Kevin Organichek. Nice to see everyone here. I founded TPAPT about 13 years ago. I'm a former exec at Kaplan Test Prep. And while there, I co-created the test prep industry's first money-back score improvement guarantee. I also created Kaplan's national marketing plan, which I don't know if it's still in use. It was as of 2016, I think. I specialize in turnaround business scenarios and standing up owner-operator firms. And I'm a spouse, parent, DIY junkie, and sustainability enthusiast, and not a Pokemon player, unfortunately. But I do know several characters in the Pokemon universe.
But we'll have to work on that, Kevin.
Yes, right. I know Pikachu is behind you, Robin.
That's I got 3 Pikachus behind me, but I'm blurred for professionalism.
Excellent.
So I have a few topics, just as a springboard, as a jumping off point. We are absolutely not required to stick to these topics. The way the roundtable discussion is going to work is I will be roughly moderating, Kevin and I will be roughly moderating, but for the most part, this is a discussion for everybody. So feel free to unmute yourself as needed. Feel free to use the hand raising function in Zoom if you would prefer. You can also add comments and questions into the chat if you're not comfortable speaking aloud, but we want to hear what everyone has learned. The first topic on the list is student acquisitions. Student acquisition. How do you find students? And I can start. I have gotten most of my students through connections with colleagues. I've found colleagues who have businesses that are getting too big for them, and most of my tutoring I do on a commission basis for other colleagues. So one way to get students is to build connections and find your niche, whatever that is. For me, it was ACT science and has since grown into several other things, but really find your place, figure out what value you can add to a community, and figure out, find yourself a colleague that you can trade off, you can refer each other students for. Who else has some thoughts on student acquisition?
I'll chime in quickly. So the marketing pyramid at Kaplan basically had at its foundation referrals. So in your case, Robin, referrals from colleagues, but I think in the majority of cases, it's referrals from teachers, counselors, or parents of students, or parents in your community, in your neighborhood, on sports teams, or, you know, dance teams, or whatever teams sort of exist. Just working with those groups, great way to start out. So
I'd love to hear thoughts from others who have some advice on how to acquire students, or even some questions, some sticking points you found.
does anyone have any difficulty finding students? Sorry, who, can you speak up?
My students generally come through the schools too, but the market has reduced since COVID passed, and they said that everything is optional through next year.
So did you have a some sort of an agreement with the school to deliver academic tutoring or test prep tutoring?
Yes, it's we work with the schools for academic tutoring and study skills tutoring, and they used to refer a lot more people for SAT and ACT, and right now the biggest request is ASVAB.
That sounds great. So you've managed to find yourself a space, even though the market has changed. Do you have any tips on how to make these connections with schools? I think a lot of new tutors are really struggling to start out. At least I did for a while, to figure out how do you even get in the door and build those connections.
So, whoops. For me, it's guidance counselors are the way in. But they first have to know that you care before they, and we offer to do free study skill seminars and things like that. So really just being community based. We also have a merit scholarship that can get us in the door with guidance counselors so that they at least hear us out, and then we can tell them all the wonderful things we can do.
Do you do leave behinds where you bring them, I don't know, gifts?
Goodie bags, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I would rather spend the money on the guidance counselors than pretty much anything, because they are in touch with students and with parents. They know who are the motivated students and who's not gonna make it either way. So it's a good partnership. The parents trust the guidance counselors. So a lot of times when a parent calls with a guidance counselor referral, they don't even ask what we charge. They just want to know how do they sign up.
That's great. And you said what did the shift in demand, what did it shift to from test prep?
Yes, well, it's still test prep, but it's for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Instead of the SAT and the ACT, they're looking for that now.
Oh, got it. And you were able to adapt and use
Well,
your
For us, it's mostly about process of elimination strategies. Yes, there are things that are special to the SAT, but they're kind of leveling the floor here with the digital piece. So that's why I'm here, is to learn more about how to give the students an advantage over on the digital SAT, because the College Board partnership with Khan Academy has kind of killed it for us with motivated students, because they have a great program already.
so I can share some best practices that I've heard. So if you have you have access, first of all, to the educator question bank, right? Through College Board.
Yes.
Okay. So that's sort of a not widely known thing that's good and that can help you help the students practice with test maker questions and in a way where you can assign them and sort of send them. So that's operationally that's helpful. But then finding some supplemental source of questions, like we offer a digital SAT product where students can take digital tests or digital section tests and then go through the analytics, and you can offer the school-based reports or cohort reports. And we're not the only one that has this, or there are a lot of places out there. I don't know of many good ones. I know Test Innovators is one that is popular, and
Right.
the reality is that what I've seen is that people are really just shifting to like test, use the analytics, like create a gap analysis report, and then assign questions. It's
Right.
it's so it's far removed from I mentioned I was a Kaplan. It's very far removed from that now. It's more about practicing question types over a lengthy period of time rather than going over like a lecture on, here's a polynomial, or here's a polynomial equation, and this is how you solve. So you're not so much teaching that basic math that they may have missed in the past. You're drilling questions. But it also appears to be working in a lot of places, and it's easier to implement. And schools like the fact that you can generate these, school reports. So
Right.
especially if they're getting money somehow from a program, then they have to demonstrate that the program, they have to just basically provide evidence that the program is working, and those school reports are helpful in that regard. But what about ACT, Robin?
I was just thinking what you just said about how the schools are motivated, especially if they're receiving funding for test prep, to see that they're meeting those benchmarks. I'm wondering if there is a market for standard alignment for someone to just sit down and go through these tests and align questions or question types, just question by question, with specific, say Common Core math standards or literacy standards, so that you can do it your way, work on the test questions, and then afterwards you can say, look, we've improved on these, and these standards. I wonder if that's something schools would be interested in.
One
Well,
other thing that's sort of really surfaced in the last year, maybe 18 months, is a free first session. I don't know if folks on this call offer that or have heard of it, or their competitors are hearing it, but it's almost become a norm. So it's like you get to try the tutor on for size first, and before you spend any money.
so I don't give a free session, but I tell them if they don't think this is the right tutor, that they're going to get the tutor one more time, because 85% of the time the second session goes just fine. And if not, I don't charge for the second session and I get them a second tutor. But I never give a free session. I give the consultation for free. And I've only had to replace tutors probably a dozen times in 16 years, because I'm very thorough when I, in my intake, and, and then I ask the right questions of the students. I'm also very particular about, hiring the tutors and making sure that I have a good grasp of who they are before I place them with students.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're like. It sounds like you know what you're doing. What's the value proposition in the free consultation?
It's for me to, it serves a lot of purposes. Number one, I get to meet the student and get to talk to them about their personality and learning style, but I also make sure it's a safe environment for my employee. I know if they have dogs, if they smoke, they have guns laying around. Does it smell like alcohol or weed? I know all those things just from being in the home. And then I ask all those questions to make sure that I make a good match.
So you offer in-home tutoring, right?
We do, yes.
So these are the things that I would recommend that you hammer in whatever marketing or collateral or messaging that you have.
Okay.
One is that you do live in-home, in-person tutoring, right? That's going to automatically separate you from lots and lots of places that do
Oh,
remote.
it is our niche in New Hampshire.
Yeah, good. So, I mean, you want to play up on that, I think.
It's every commercial, because it's more convenient for the parent, and they learn to study in their own background noise. They don't forget their materials, all kinds of good things.
And then I think the other thing is, like, you want to focus on creating free consultations, not in converting people to test prep or to tutoring or test prep. The reason is, most of the time when you have a free consultation, you're probably converting at a very high rate. Most companies do. Like, if you can talk to someone over the phone, there's
Right.
like an 80 to 90% chance you're going to sign them up, right?
Yep.
So focus on the free consultation. Don't mix messages. Hammer the free consultation, hammer the fact that you just still believe strongly in home, in person, or in
Yep.
person, and use those to sort of lead your marketing messaging, because
It does, and it does great for K through 12, but it's not getting test prep students. And I even, made an ad about the National Merit Scholarship and how important the PSAT is for juniors. And, I think that's how I got the summer students I had this year. But, the fact that there aren't a lot of materials available for us, I mean, our company partnered with ePrep for the digital platform. But, just using the College Board book, the new one that they revised for the digital SAT, and our process of elimination strategies, it's all right. I just wanted to see what you had that I didn't.
Yeah, gotcha. So one more recommendation on the messaging. focus the messaging on the fact that you don't need to be a perfect scorer to qualify for state scholarships, but the majority of state scholarships still require SAT or ACT as one of the requirements to apply. So
I actually know a student that's struggling with that right now.
like you need to get like a 21, 22 on the ACT to qualify for state money.
Right,
In a lot of places. I would hammer that because I mean, we're in a place where people feel stretched like financially. So that's a way to help at least let them know that there's the potential to get money in at a state level.
right, if they get a good score on the SAT.
Yeah, I'll send a link to the group
Okay.
about an article that we wrote that sort of it has all the states and all the requirements. So that should be helpful.
Yep,
That might be a good angle also for running like a free information session, like run an information session on scholarships and focus it on the ones that require, all you need is a decent test score. And lastly, before we go, here are some ways that you can improve your test score with me.
right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. That I learned a whole bunch here. Let's let's switch topics a little bit. This is some of the least pleasant part of our work. I think sometimes no shows, whether it's student no show or tutor no show, and somewhat related payment and cancellation policies. What sort of policies do you all have in your business? How do you communicate them with your clients? And how do you enforce them? Both to what degree do you enforce them? And then like literally how do you enforce them? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So we sign a contract and we either have an hourly rate or a group, a package deal. And once we know we have the right tutor, we bill for either the month or the full program. With SAT, it tends to be the full program because they get a better bargain per hour that way. And we have an unexcused absence policy. If we get less than 4 hours notice to cancel, then the tutor gets paid and you don't. You don't get a session. So it's good to have and that's in our contract. We have the contract spells it all out that there needs to be an adult in the home and not at the table, but in the home so that we know we're covered and that's how we bill.
What happens if a tutor shows up and there isn't a parent at home, for example?
We don't enter the house and we call to see what's up. And then if they come late, they just have a short session. But if there's not an adult there, then we don't go in. And we tell the parent it's okay to have a neighbor there. It just has to be an adult.
Sounds like a really smart policy. How often do you find that you have to enforce that sort of thing?
With SAT students, not very often. With our private parents, I don't think that they really get it until it happens. And then I call and remind them of the policy and give them grace the first time, but remind them that the next time they're going to pay for it. And then it doesn't happen anymore. It tends to happen most in the spring, I think it's spring fever. If they're
I do something,
but if they're not coming, we don't wait.
I do something similar where I usually give them, a freebie. We have a serious talk and then don't charge them for the first one. And it almost never happens again. I find that for the most part, it's not really on purpose. It's either a student trying to get away with something
Right.
without telling their parents. Then once their parents know that that's an option, then the parents are usually more on top of it. Or it's like an illness or some unforeseen circumstance, which usually.
Another thing I do during paperwork is I tell the parent and the student. I tell the student, if you don't do the homework, there's 90 minutes of homework for every 90-minute session. And if you don't do the homework, I tell the parents because this is not cheap. I will throw you under the bus if you don't do the homework.
That's a good topic that I did not think of. is homework is a good one. And
You have to build muscle memory, and that's why, you know, it's good to be able to segment by question type, because some people are terrible at a specific kind of question. And it's really sad that they got rid of the question of the day. If I were you guys, I would build an app, a question of the day for SAT, and I would make every student I got sign up for it because it is so good. Build muscle memory.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you're not wrong about that, about doing the homework.
Yep. Well, it's a waste of money if they're only going to do the 90 minutes with the tutor, you know. It's not going to get them what the bang for the buck that they need. And you know what I ask them is, would you wait until Sunday and brush your teeth 7 times? No. Your teeth would not be as clean. Same thing goes with learning. You have to do it daily.
I love that. I think I'm gonna take that and use it.
Go for it. It's a really good analogy they can relate to, because they're like, some kids are like, ugh. Like, exactly. That's how I feel about you doing a homework an hour before I get here. Because I
So
still tutor for the SAT.
So that that's the best practice that I know of as well. It's like you have a policy and you make sure that it's in writing. But if someone cancels with less than 24 hours, you do give them sort of that freebie one time, and you let them know that they will be charged thereafter because you're paying the tutor, right? So
Ours is only 4-hour notice. If
for
things that they
but
don't know about. If, you know, if it's a dentist appointment they've known about for months, that's one thing. But for, you know, little Johnny's sick today, you know, that's a 4-hour notice thing. So
yeah, that's it. How about when the tutor no shows?
well, the tutor better give notice. You know, I had a tutor one day, he came out of work and there was a puddle of oil under his car and he had to cancel 3 students. And at that point in time, it was pre-COVID, so parents did not want to have a remote session, even though it was a week before midterms. So now at least we can say, you know, the tutor's car broke down. Can we do a remote session today? You know, but we don't have a lot of problem with the tutor not showing up unless life happens.
Yeah.
sounds like you have a really solid crew of tutors working for you. I'd love to hear how you made that happen. How'd you find them? What sort of things were you looking for, and how do you train them?
So the radio, I'm on the radio a lot. And that's for regular tutors, etc. And I don't talk about SAT tutoring on the radio because I don't think a lot of people have kept up with what that really entails. And so either sometime during the tutor interview process or even at the orientation, we'll talk about that. And then I kind of handpick them because they have to be the right kind of person. They have to be a cheerleader for the student, you know, they have to build that confidence. So I handpick them, and there are people who want to do it. And so I give them the diagnostic and I tell them, if you don't get a 1200, you can't teach it. So if you get a 1200, I'll train you to get better, you know?
Yeah, I think having that standard is important. Or just having a standard is important.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I know that there are a lot of companies that will say, you know, if you can score a 1500, then we're not going to train you and you're just going to go off and tutor. And I feel like that's not always the right way to do it. Just because someone can
Oh,
get a perfect score doesn't mean they're necessarily a competent tutor. And vice
correct.
versa. If you can't get a 1600, it doesn't mean you're not a great tutor or couldn't be a great tutor.
I tell people that if you get every easy and medium question right, you'll have an amazing score. So let's focus on the easy ones first.
Good strategy.
It is. And, you know, I'm really upset about what they did with the reading, because we used to teach the kids the boomerang strategy for the tangent questions and everything. That was 25% of the reading section, and it's all gone. All my cool strategies are all gone, you know?
Yeah, the changes have definitely been, changes.
Yes.
I think my biggest complaint with the change is that we just don't have that many tests. I just want more tests.
Yeah, I know. I
No,
know.
yeah.
I'm using all the paper ones from the 2020 tests, well, from since they revamped it, I have all the paper ones. So there are actually 10. So we use those. And online we have 6 online tests that they can take, and they all have video answers and things like that. But the kids don't watch them. It's the most underutilized part of our system, is that all this video stuff exists and they don't use it, just like they don't use the Khan Academy and college sports stuff. An app I think they would use.
I found that there's annoyingly little overlap between self-studying students and students who work with tutors. And I have, students I work very well with, but would never watch a video on their own. And then I have students that I've never worked with, but who are paying for access to videos. Have you considered something like that where you provide, the videos for a small fee to self-studying students?
Yes. Yes, and they have discovered that they're terrible at keeping appointments with themselves because sports and school and budgets and da 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 are yelling at them, and the book isn't. So I think that's another reason I think the question of the day app would be so awesome, because it wouldn't take them very long to do, and it would be like, ding, do this, and then they're done, and I had some kids doing it before they brush their teeth. I'm like, you're not allowed to eat before, you're not allowed to brush your teeth till you do the question of the day. But
This is classic test prep in New England, it's like, take no prisoners. You're accountable. You need to be personally accountable.
well, you need to give them a reason. If they say, oh, I think that 10 o'clock would be better because I'll be good with that. But if, they need direction, and it's easier to edit than create. So if I give them something to work off of, then, that's what I do.
I think you're hitting on something that's really important, is that parents, students crave structure. They don't realize it at this age, and they'd probably tell you that they don't.
Right.
But developmentally, they crave it, they need it, and parents almost expect it from the programs that they sign up for. So, it sounds like you are really well aligned with your parents and your students in that regard.
Yes, and they like that I'm blunt. My HR person tells potential tutors that Lisa puts the direct in director. So.
Well, I think if thinking about what Kevin's always talking about, executive function, teenagers are often struggling with that. And so having a tutoring appointment on a calendar, having somebody, someone to hold you accountable who knows what they're doing, I think can go a long way.
It does.
Students do this stuff. Like, as tutors, like how much are we actually teaching them, and how much are we just kind of motivating them, encouraging them, organizing? I guess we're there for the structure. They're doing the work on their own.
Right. Are there no other people on the call that can help us, can chime in too?
Yeah, please. We do have several other folks here. Although I think
I
Muhammad
don't want to take over everything.
I have a question. So this is my name is Lori, but I have a question on the new CT. Where is the best place to find material for that so that we can start getting used to it early?
Best place to start is the Blue Book app, which you can download from the College Board website. You'll need to create a student account, not an educator account, and you'll be able to take 6 practice tests and then review the scores and the questions on their website. On top of that, College Board also offers an enormous question bank that has, I think, something like 800 questions total. Maybe half of them are on those first 6 practice tests, but a whole lot of additional questions. You can organize them by category. They have them separated by difficulty level. And then going through that, that's really useful for tailoring homework assignments to students. There's a lot of material. There's not a lot of great formatting. And so, having third-party prepackaged assignments, someone who's gone through and found, all of the questions on a particular topic, or you know, an entire mock test or section based on the question bank questions can be really helpful if that's interesting to you. And I think Kevin knows more about some of the additional third-party materials that are available.
Yeah, just, did you ask about ACT or SAT?
ACT.
Oh, you said ACT. I'm sorry, I misheard.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's, so is that like, right now, I'm currently not a member of the TPAT, but I watched from early on when it was first developed. So I developed a curriculum and it's been about 20 years now that we've been tutoring, and it's a private company, but I'm just wondering if more tutors are going to go towards the like more digital testing with the kids, because we still find that if they can use paper, so we actually have ours, you know, written out on worksheets and they use paper. Now that it's going digital, where is there more digital um material?
Yeah, that I could use some more information on too. Their ACT has not released, it feels to me like they haven't released enough information that we as content creators can make more practice materials yet. And I
Yes,
think that we're just waiting, and it feels like we're just waiting. If anyone has more information about that, I would love to hear it. But I'm also advising students to stick to paper as long as possible because we know what the paper test looks like.
right. Yeah, that's, and they do, like, we have found our students that are taking digital versus paper, it's about a 3 to 4 point difference, and they score lower on the digital. So,
There's
yeah.
not gonna be a choice much longer.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
won't.
I make the students practice digitally if they're taking it digitally.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so is it switching 100% digital in April, or is it are they just changing the question types? I've forgotten now.
I think in April, the state and the national test, it says it'll only be digital on that April test. Maybe it's a way for them to test it. But then after that, I think it'll be the new format, but they'll still get to choose either or.
Yeah, so it's either or, and students are still scoring well on the paper and pencil, like scoring better
Better.
on the paper and pencil. Yeah, then they should just use paper and pencil. So as far as the materials, though, I think they're going to stop releasing. Robin, correct me. They're going to stop releasing the TQIs.
CIR, yeah.
Um, so you just like, I think we have to wait for ACT to come up with their material, and then what will happen is as soon as ACT comes up with their material, then companies will write spiraled questions off of that material. So in other
Correct.
words, they'll take an actual question and they'll have their writers or AI or something say like, look at this question
Right.
and recreate it using different numbers and that sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, that's what we have done. But I do think that I think the material, you know, from the past, I don't think the question types will change that much. Really just will be to get used to doing it on the computer, if that's the way that they, you know, that they end up signing up, or if they take away paper eventually. Not this past year, but the year before, when I went to the ACT convention, they did say it wasn't cost effective to keep paper, but then they did keep paper. So maybe it's because of the discrepancy on the scoring with the same test, digital versus paper, you know?
I
Yeah,
think that
I don't think they're as far along in norming their population as College
No.
Board was with the SAT kids.
Right.
yes, I
Right.
think they're going to get rid of the paper as quickly as they can, probably for financial reasons, because a paper test requires it requires giving an entire test to a whole bunch of people all at one time, whereas a digital test, there is more room for mixing things up. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved to a system like the SAT has, where you have uh, individual questions, no longer entire passages, um, like they currently have, because it is, if you can have an entire mix and match test section, then you don't have to retire the questions. and you can keep using them indefinitely. And I think that similar to the way College Board has, I think that's the goal, because then you don't need to write as many questions. You don't need to test and norm as many questions. So I think that even if that's not the goal now, I think that we'll see that in the next couple of years.
Right. I think I heard that just yesterday on a podcast where they interviewed someone from the ACT, and they said they definitely are changing the reading section to get rid of those passages. Okay.
They're being particularly cagey about it, and I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's because they don't have the answers yet. And I think it's going to be, a shorter test, but a shorter test that's roughly the same for the time being. And I think there will be bigger changes in the coming years.
Right.
I'll be the cynic. I think they're going to make it easier so that it becomes more popular because they're fighting for market share. I'm going to put that out there. So that means the most difficult questions on the ACT are probably going to go away, which would be like, I don't know, those passages that are lengthy and full of like old English dialect or something. I feel like those are going to go away.
Right.
And the science section is optional. The science section used to, scare students. So I was going to say scare the blank out of students, but and it shouldn't, because it's really just graphic literacy and reading comprehension. But yeah, I think it'll be a kinder, gentler test, just like the digital SAT was purported to be early on. So
I don't know if it'll necessarily be easier, but I think it'll definitely be shorter and I don't know, more manageable, less intimidating, I guess,
yeah,
is what I'm thinking here.
I
But
think
it can't be too easy. There's still, a big selling point of the SAT is that they're able to separate out students in the top couple percentiles, which is a huge tool for college admissions. And a big part of their profit is colleges connecting to students. And I think if they can't offer a way to separate the 98th from the 99th percentile, I think they won't be able to sell it well.
I agree. Yeah.
I think we just have to wait and see, which is annoying. And I think that the longer they take to share this information, I think that's going to hurt. I think that students, tutors are going to turn in the other direction.
Yep, I agree. Okay.
We have not talked a whole lot about payment policies. I'd be interested to hear if folks have any thoughts or questions on whether you have students pay in advance, pay afterwards, pay for one session, pay for a whole package. Do you offer discounts? We talked a little bit about a free first session or not. And then how do you collect payment? What platforms do you use? What have you found helpful? What have you found problematic? And I can tell you that as a solo tutor, I prefer to have students pay after the session, one session at a time, even though it can be a little bit of work and sometimes chasing people down after the fact, because it's more work for me to have to sell packages at a time and to track all of that information. And I also have some sympathy for parents who forget and need reminders. But it can definitely be annoying, and I'd love to hear more other ways of handling that.
So we take checks at the consultation, or once we know that we have the right tutor. If I'm the tutor, we know it's the right tutor. So I can take a check and save the credit card fee. If not, we do a monthly credit card in advance the first Monday of each month per contract.
What happens if a student cancels, within enough time to get a refund?
It's
But
credited towards the next month, and if we're nearing the end of the contract, we just don't bill it. I make sure the parents know that you have to have skin in the game so that you are committed, but we don't want this to be a financial burden. We've had some scholarshiping. I've had a couple parents where they pay for an hour and we scholarship the other half hour. We can spread out payments. It's good to have the credit card number on file for us when it's monthly, but you know, getting a check right up front is always good too.
Have you had any issues with bad checks at all?
No, because I collect them at the beginning, not the end.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a chance to cash them and then let people know if they don't go through before they start.
Correct.
That's great. So there's a lot of, like you can set billing up through places like Stripe or PayPal. So like it can automatically bill a student after you deliver a session, if you set it up that way. Because otherwise, Robin, if you really have a ton of people and if you're billing like at the end of the month for the sessions that have been delivered, I mean, one is the further you get from the session, the less efficient it is financially in terms of like the present value of a dollar. But also it can be really laborious, you know, if you have like 30 or 40 people and you're doing billing. So yeah, that's my feedback there.
That makes a lot of sense. I've been lucky, and that's sort of the thing. I'm kind of just sort of hoping it works out, and it tends to do so. I would say 9 out of 10 students pay before the session or immediately after within 24 hours, and it's not a problem. And then that last 1 out of 10, almost everyone responds to, you know, just an email. I might have to send like 1 or 2 emails at the end of every month. But everyone else is pretty good. But you know, I fear of a time that it doesn't work out that way.
It's usually manageable until you grow too big, right? What about subscriptions? Does anyone have like a subscription model? I've talked to a couple of people recently that's what they do. They just charge a subscription monthly in advance. It sounds great.
Sounds like a good way to have a predictable income stream.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem, it does. And the companies that do it, I think it's much easier, right? Because the billing is easier, the cash flow is reliable. But I feel like most companies still charge as you go, or charge like once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month and just do all the invoicing at one time. But it would make it much easier. You charged in advance on a subscription basis for a set period of time.
Ours isn't a subscription, but it's month to month until they give 2 weeks notice to end.
Yeah.
For academic tutoring. Generally, we have an end date set for SAT tutoring before it starts. I have an ASVAB student that we don't know when she's going to end, though.
Yeah, that sounds like pretty much the same model. You know,
Yep.
maybe 1 or 2 more steps, but it's still much more manageable than individual billing after a session or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I just use a spreadsheet so that I can track how many sessions have happened, and then if any credits that need to happen, they just go at the beginning of to the next invoice.
Oh, let me give some more advice on the student acquisition. So
I have one quick question though.
yeah, go.
How do you do the scholarship? Like somebody was saying that they give a scholarship for classes. So how does that work? Is that like you give that, your company gives that?
Yes.
Then is that tax deductible?
So the company pays it's on an accrual basis, so it doesn't cut down on taxes, but it's good marketing, it's good PR, it reduces income. So, you know, you can look at it however you want, But make sure that the parent that there's skin in the game, otherwise you'll get, unexcused absences left and right. So at least that's been our experience.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, yeah, because we do that too. We kind of base it per student. If we need more tutoring, then we'll discount it, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, the scholarship idea is a great one. And it's as long as you do what Lisa said, which is like, unless if it's like 50% or 75%, then the family's still paying something. So the student is more likely to show up with skin in the game.
Right.
Yeah, the other student acquisition thing. So I feel like there's been a major shift into helping kids with math and ELA in like second and eighth grade. I think a number of studies came out that just said, post-pandemic, they're like a year and a half delayed. And so that's going to be an opportunity. And so focusing your messaging on that. So the problem I've found with a lot of tutoring companies is they're made up of a lot of smart people, and together they can tutor or teach like 20 subjects or something, plus college advising. And what that does, it just sort of dilutes your message sometimes when you try and tell people that you can do everything. Sometimes it's better to just focus on a few core things that most of your students are coming to you for anyways. So it's another recommendation on the messaging around student acquisition, is focus on, math, recovery, ELA, like literacy, that sort of stuff. If you have people that can do that work at your company.
It's also a good way to sell to schools. And while we're still open to discussion of any other topics, if anyone has any ideas, questions, or thoughts, I would like to hear some folks' thoughts on curriculum development. How do you decide what your tutoring program is going to look like? Where do you get your materials from? What does your program look like? What have you found that works? What have you found that doesn't work?
We use the students' curriculum for regular academics. We have a license to helpteaching.com so the tutors can pull worksheets down on the fly. For ELA, we use Reading A to Z, the free stuff there. But I want to go back to the student acquisition for a second. We say pre-K to pre-med and everything in between, so that parents know we can serve the whole family. And many of our tutors are very well-rounded so that they can work with more than one student, and they work with them back to back, and we give a 20% discount for the second student.
That's great.
Keeps them busy.
I mean, as long as, so I guess within the context of what I was saying, as long as you're not like constantly trying to say like, we do this tutoring, we do this tutoring, and we do this tutoring and this other tutoring, and plus college advising, like that's what I was saying, like focus your message.
Yep, that makes sense.
But your catchphrase is awesome and it covers that whole, it's like a one-stop shop.
That's our goal.
We think we've touched on the struggles that everyone's having with curriculum development for SAT and ACT, and then Lisa gave some good feedback on ways to either complement or supplement academic tutoring programs. Anyone else having difficulty developing a curriculum, building a curriculum, just questions in general about how to do that?
I'm still annoyed that College Board doesn't have more complete tests, just because, I mean, I love the flexibility of the question bank. I love being able to tailor something to a student, but the best cobbled together practice test is still not going to be as accurate as what College Board can make themselves. And I just wish we had more. And then with ACT, we have a ton of tests. We just don't know how well they will reflect the future ones.
Right. Right.
I think that's the biggest challenge is, with a student who, let's say an SAT student where you've, spaced out the 6 practice tests throughout an entire tutoring program, and then the student decides, actually, I want to come back for more and I want a little bit more practice. Do you redo tests? Do you go third party? Do you stick to just stuff you make yourself, or just homeworks? And I've honestly tried everything and still I'm not sure what is the best solution.
I would say as long as they're using the tools in the app every time to get better at using the digital tools, that they'll do fine.
Yes, it definitely helps. I guess I wish I had the benchmarks. I wish I had the data from taking an entire test, especially for the students who are scoring like, let's say 1400 students who are
Yep.
pretty much getting all of the easy medium questions and just missing a few of the hard ones. Sometimes I just wish there were more practice tests available.
Yep.
What do you think? Should we move on to tutor hiring and training?
Yeah, absolutely. Folks out there who have hired tutors, how do you find them? Where do you post jobs? Where are you doing your job search? What sort of questions do you ask when you interview them? And then what does the training process look like? I am I'm a solo tutor, so I do not have this for my own business, but I have consulted on hiring practices and have run trainings for many, many, many tutors, but would love to hear what other folks have done.
We've actually hired our own students before. So if it's particularly students going into engineering and they've done our program, so they're familiar with our program, so then we may hire them as math tutors mainly. But now as we start to do more online, I think we're still going to stick with that. And that our students that we've had, most of our clients, we've had them for a year or two. So we will look at hiring them. Mhm.
I love that. Grow your own.
Mhm.
That's a great practice, and I've definitely had students where I've thought, wow, if I was going to hire someone, it would be you.
Mhm.
Are these
Mhm.
high school students?
Well, they're college students, they graduate high, so they're usually first, second, third year engineering or teaching, students that are going into teaching. I'll get them on their last 2 years of college, but we're lucky
Great.
that we sit in between 2 colleges.
Very good. We require a bachelor's degree, so we don't do community colleges and things like that. And Indeed never worked for us.
Right, that's true. It didn't work for us either. Yeah.
I called and yelled at them more than once and said, how far will you drive to work for an hour? And they just don't get it.
Mm. How about pay? What kind of pay do you pay your tutors?
So if you have a master's degree, you start at 25 an hour. If you take the training for SAT, it's an extra $5 an hour from wherever you're at. Special ed certified starts at $50 an hour if it's a school contract.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good. We don't have school training, but yeah, that's about what we pay too. Okay.
Are you in New England?
No, $20 to $25 an hour, and we're actually in Illinois and Missouri.
Excellent.
And what are your training programs like?
Oh, sorry.
What, how do you get them up to speed? What sort of training do you do?
For our directors, we would, they would join in and they would train for over a 5-week period, and then they'll be with someone for the next 5 weeks, before they're on their own. But for if it's just single subject, then those people, whether it's students, like for our math students, mainly engineering students, it's mostly single subject for them.
Does your training focus mostly on the content or on pedagogy, teaching skills?
Well, it's our own proprietary, information that we train them on, like we have a certain way that we do it. And
Mhm.
then as far as worksheets and that kind of thing that we've made up ourselves. And then we use also the ACT Red Book for their full test. So we have a little bit of everything, but that's right now, that's our problem, is we're trying to make new material for the new test, but there really isn't anything out there for the new ACT. In Illinois, they just switched from the SAT at the public school for free, that now they'll give the ACT. So in April, they'll give a digital test, but we don't really have, we know the format, we just don't know, we don't have anything to go off of. So we're going to kind of just take a fly at it. Start making our own curriculum.
Good for you. I have another meeting I have to leave. I didn't want to just hang up, so thanks for
Okay.
all the information.
Mhm.
Having you. Thanks
Thank
for.
you so much for sharing. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
So I have a quick question though. So with TPAT, like, is this something that you join and you can use your material? Like, do you have people that it's like a, kind of like a, what do they call it? Like a whiteboard material, and you can put your own name on it? Do tutors buy your material and then put their name and that's what they use?
Yeah, we're an industry association, and we provide continuing education and specifically SAT, ACT tutor training,
Mhm.
as well as business training. So we don't directly tutor folks. We have two ways where you can be tutoring through TPAPT, and one is to get certified, and then we refer student requests to you, and the other is to sign up for. It's really a continuing education. It's a tutoring site, like what do I want to say, a tutoring marketplace through Virtue Academy, VIRTU Academy.
Mhm.
And you can upload your profile there and tutor online. It has, all the things that like a varsity tutor site has. It gives you the ability to schedule, deliver the session, record the session, and bill the students. But we're not out there saying, hey, come and tutor for us, or
Oh,
come and sign up for our tutoring.
right, right. So do you provide them with the material?
The tutors, in our training programs, we do. We have SAT and ACT curricula, and those will be updated. Like the SAT is already updated. So, like for example, the training now includes like an integrated Desmos solution for all the math. So we solve the math, and then there's also a Desmos solution for the same problems. That's asynchronous, and then the ACT will be updated as soon as we have material that we can load into it, as soon as we know what's going to be on the test.
So so you train your tutors, and then your tutors use the Virtue Academy to tutor from to get their material?
Yeah, no, the Virtue Academy is so tutors that don't have experience can accumulate more student contact hours. It's just a service that we provide so that tutors can easily get online and start to tutor their students online and save time on scheduling and things like that.
Okay.
We're more about helping organizations staff their tutors with people that we've trained or people that we've recruited.
Oh, okay. So you'll have tutors that are available to tutor online
Or in person. I mean, we
or in
do.
person. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that you actually had people that you could, kind of source out or let them know. That's
Yeah,
okay.
so if you needed someone like, let's say you need an SAT full test tutor to
Mhm.
do in-person tutoring in Chicago or wherever you are in Illinois, we can provide that person. We can source that person for you.
Okay, okay. So are you hiring them though, or we're hiring them through you? So kind of like, sort
You're hiring them. You're either hiring them or you're contracting them. We're just putting them in
Yeah.
front of you. And then you still have to do an interview to make sure they're a cultural fit.
right.
And you're still going to do whatever you have to do in terms of your onboarding, whether it's contracting or employment. You still
Okay.
do all that. Like they become yours, I guess.
Right, right, okay. That, you know what, that is good to know. So, because, okay. Do you know of any companies? Because I have had companies who have contacted us about the online FAT and they're like, oh, we have this test bank available, questions available, and you can put your name on it and use it. But haven't found anyone that does that for the ACT yet. Do you know of any companies that might do that?
Do you need do you need a paper and pencil curriculum or do you need a remote, like
Online.
online?
Yeah, what I'm missing right now, and that's what I'm trying to find out how to put together, is the online prep for the ACT for the new digital version.
Yeah, so we have that. Like we will have it for the new version,
Hmm.
and we have it right now for the old version. So we charge $99 for an educator license to use that, and then you know, you can charge more when you charge your students. We tried to keep the price low so that you can, one, afford it, and two, make money on it if it's possible to make money on it. So,
Right. So
and we
is the
could set
night,
up like a separate call if you want to go through the curriculum together. I can demo it for you.
And then
okay,
once we get enough information about the new test, we will immediately get on making updated materials.
okay, sure. I'll put my email in the chat, but that's what I would love to find out is, I'm actually wondering, do I want to invest the money and create our own curriculum? Or is there a curriculum out there? Like, we have our own, like, we have our own method to teach the kids to do it, but I need some practice, online practice. And I'm wondering, do I pay and try to, start it from scratch? Or is there somewhere I can just buy it?
Yeah, you can just buy it. And you probably should because there are a lot of people that have done it. You just have to find it. Like if you're used to creating stuff, um, you might not think all of the material in an off-the-shelf product is what you want it to be.
Mhm.
It'll probably save you a ton of money and a ton of time if you find something that you think fits well enough. And so, yeah, I would say there's going to be plenty of off-the-shelf stuff, and
Okay, but your company does offer that too?
we
That's what you
do.
offer? Okay,
We do. Yeah.
okay, good.
I'll send you an email and I can demo what we currently have for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Robin, I know you have to go soon,
Yep,
so
I have to go. I have to head out and get the kids. But it has been an absolute pleasure. I've learned so much and have enjoyed sharing.
I've learned a lot too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank
I hope
you.
everyone has a wonderful day.
Too.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.